afternoon, good morning, good evening, folks. Your man, Lloyd George Pitch, aka the Emperor of Female Bodybuilding, Talk coming to you live on YouTube. Well, folks, today is Saturday. Yeah, I remember as a kid growing up and running around watching cartoons till this afternoon and playing, but now it's just I don't know. It's not the same like it used to be. You don't have cartoons on Saturday morning. It's just But I know, folks. I hope you enjoy your weekend and I hope this will be a fun and productive weekend for you. So we have this lovely lady who, in 2023, she turned pro at the North Americans. She made her pro debut in 2024. And she's also a lady, she works with a lady that I know, the lovely Miss Jolie Lyons. Recently Jolie got married. She is IFBB Physique Pro, the lovely Miss Nancy Culliney. We welcome Miss Culliney and thank you for your time.
Sure, thanks for having me.
All right, not a problem. So, ma'am, this is a question I ask you, ladies. What got you started in sport, as I call it, muscle and masculinity? Please share.
So I grew up in the Midwest and we had a lot of, really great food, but fattening foods, biscuits and gravy, deep fried things. And so I always struggled with weight and I made a decision to start going to the gym. And at that time, it was primarily men. And they really showed you how to train to keep lifting heavier and heavier. I remember them telling me to wrap my knees, do heavy squats. And after a while, I just thought, is this really the way I should be training? I really, looked into different kinds of sources of information. And Rachel McLish was a big role model for me, just her feminine, but still very muscular physique that was really attractive to me. So I really wanted to kind of like follow her lead and learn how she did what she did. So it really, I think, becomes an addiction once you start because you see results. So that's kind of how I got started, and really have just been doing it ever since. It's a way of life.
Yeah, I think Rachel Lesh was one of the most popular women's sport of bodybuilding, the first Miss Olympia champion in women's bodybuilding, and then she has been really made a career out of her from bodybuilding because she's some acting in some movies and TV shows through her career, and then she don't talk about much about it anymore. She kind of backs away from it, but that is one lady that really represents what were women's bodybuilding back in the day. And you come from the Midwest, I can understand. I'm from the South, and we do biscuits and gravies, and in a and a sausage and a egg and cheese, and it's just it's just we're farm folk, most of us. My family was sharecroppers, and that's how we eat and raise. Here we have a man coming through. Shout out to my man, KL, the one that says, wow, she got some abs on her. Hey, man, yeah, got a lot, And also he says, good afternoon, Nancy and George. I appreciate that, brother. Also, he says this. He says, yeah, she just won my physique show. And also he says this. He says, I think Rick McMesh would be proud. Yes, because, I
Oh,
know a
thank
lady
you.
I have a friend named Eunice. That was also a person who inspired her because her family was in her, Richards, I think, lived originally in Texas, and she had a gym back in the day. And her father was working, doing some construction work for her, and she saw a picture of Richard. She wondered who that was, so that's the lady that owns the gym. And her name is Eunice. Shout out to Eunice, is a bad rep. That inspired her to get into bodybuilding. So, what was that first show? What was that experience like for you?
So I started competing like way back when, like in the early 2000s. And, it was at the time where you had to, use that, stuff that you put on yourself to tan. It smelled like total chemicals and really, just kind of went on stage. And I'm kind of a type A. So I thought I was just going to like kill it. I thought I was just going to like take it. And what a different story it was. I was just like yipe yipe yipe, off the stage because it was, um, a lot more competitive than than I thought it would be. But it really taught me that I need to make improvements, and really it is a process, and it's just something that you have to just keep working at to improve. That you're not necessarily going to go. And it's great if you can go on stage and do that, but in most cases it takes people many times, and you just really have to keep the commitment and going back. So I just, like I said, I'm a kind of a type A, so I'm like, I'm going to do it until I win one of these trophies, so
And so I was saying,
that's
you
kind of
want,
mentality.
yeah, you want to do it till you get it right, because you know what, this is a tough sport. Like the everyday person don't know anything much about bodybuilding other than, like, I would say there's two people that really stand out in bodybuilding. Other is like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Luke Ferrigno, Incredible Hulk and the Terminator. And this sport, it's a lot of work to it. And mindset of everyday person is like, I just pop some pills and take some gear. I'll be like, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
No, there's more than that. I mean, the training, the
Mhm.
dieting, consistency. I know, you compete for a long time before you got your pro card.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've had like a lot of people, say, well, I'm going to do a show, and, it's like great if you have the reality of, what it takes, like, the training, the prep, the diet. It's not something, like you said, that can just happen overnight. And it's, something that, people do, sometimes think it's like, I'm just gonna, walk on stage and do a show. And it's like me saying, I'm going to be a CPA, right? I mean, a certified public accountant. I mean, it takes years and tests, and, it's kind of like that, same thing that you really have to work at it. And each time you have to come back with a better package, that's a fact.
Yeah, it's tough. My oldest sister, she's a CPA. She used to do my taxes back in the day. When you just had to take them in and mail them in, and you didn't have to pay nobody. Just wait about 2 or 3 months, and so you get your money back. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
anything. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and it can be, if you don't have the mentality or the patience, most people can't do what y'all do. Being disciplined and consistent, like, sticking to a diet, sticking to a plan, workout and training. There's so many temptations in the world, especially when it comes to food.
Yeah.
You have to eat certain things, like you might be on a plan with catching macros. You have to on like low carb, high proteins, you know. You have to count, some people don't even count. They say, well, I know how much I got, so I don't have to be that particular, but I want to make sure I put in the right stuff to help my body grow.
hmm Yeah, and you have to have like a support system. Like if you, have a significant other that, gets upset that you can't eat certain things at a restaurant, or why are you going to the gym again? It's not, something that is supportive. And, I've been lucky in that sense that my fiance is really supportive. He's done a show in the past, so he knows what it takes. But, we cook and eat the same way, but it's just like so key that you have to have like a solid, support.
Yeah, because I know I've talked to ladies that said sometimes I remember a couple of ladies told me that they were married and their marriage broke up because they would do something different that wasn't the norm. You're not doing like going out and spending time with families and friends like you used to, because you have to get ready, go to sleep, you need your rest. You go to the gym, you have to work out. You go to. I remember a lady told me that she went to a wedding and she bought her own food because at a wedding
Yeah.
you have chicken, steak, or fish, but she couldn't eat any of that. Couldn't even eat the cake because she was on prep. She's maybe 6, 7 weeks out from a show, and she still need to be consistent with her diet. We have here my man Ryan Lake coming through. He says hello to Ryan. Says hello, Ryan, brother. How you doing? Appreciate for you coming through. And it's good that you have somebody in your life. What's his name? How long y'all been together?
A couple years. So he had done a show in the past, and we try to train together if we can. But just the food thing is, it's unbelievable how much protein you buy, and just like pans of like meat that you throw on the grill. And I mean, I've taken pictures of it before, and it literally looks like you're feeding a school or something. I mean, it's just a ton that you're just prepping. And you have to have that mindset. And but it's great to to have somebody that is like continually understands, but also supportive, and goes to the shows, and is there to like just say, you can do it. You can do it because you feel like you're going to just pass out sometimes.
Yeah, it can be tough, just anybody who gets in this ring. I gotta give you respect, to follow your diet and consistency, and and especially as I said again with women, because you're doing something that changes the aspects of your body. Women are supposed to be soft, you're supposed to be feminine. Oh yeah, yeah, but bodybuilding can change those things, but it brings you to a certain level where you feel like, okay, I'm good where I'm at. Here we got my man Laura coming through. Haven't seen Laura in a long time, brother. Welcome, brother. It says, hello, George and Nancy. Nice to hear about your story. Appreciate that. So, folks, what we're going to do is this. As you know, she earned a pro card at the North Americans in 2023. And she did a little interview, afterwards. So we're going to check out the interview. You want to follow Nancy. Her link in the social media description. Guys, be respectful to these ladies. Don't be weird. They don't want, come on. Just be respectful. Because these are nice ladies. Take time to talk to me. So, you got to be here. Use your common sense. So we're going to go in here. Give me a sec. Because that's, we got to pull it up in. And here is the interview. And my other guy says, here we go.
Online, we're here at the 2023 North American Championships with your women's physique 50 and over overall champ and new IFBB pro. This is Nancy Culliney, folks. Nancy, congratulations. How you feeling?
I'm feeling awesome. It's been a journey. It's definitely a process, so it's been amazing.
All right, so overall champ, IFBB pro, how long have you been going for this?
For the last several years, I've been doing national shows, but I've been doing competitions for over 20 years.
Wow, competing for 2 decades. And you just started competing nationally, going for the pro card, you said the last couple of years?
Yes. So
How many national shows have you done?
a few back in the early 2000s, and then really after 2015, NPC all the way.
Okay.
It's best, yeah.
Okay. So what was the last show you did before this one?
So last year I did the Masters Nationals and the North Americans.
How'd you do?
Did good, third place, second place.
Oh, close.
Yeah. So actually I was second in 3 classes. So.
Oh, brutal.
So I was like, I gotta go again.
Was this at North American last year?
Yes.
All right, so this was the last show you did before this one. So you came back and got redemption.
Yes.
So you didn't do Masters Nats this year though, right? Just North American?
Did,
Okay.
yes.
How'd that go?
It was okay, but I knew I could come in better.
Conditioning?
Yeah.
Conditioning was a little off at North American? I mean, at Masters?
Yeah. I had a great coach that brought me into this one, and super grateful.
Well, that's awesome. So what's next? You've been after this goal for so long. Now you got it.
I'm a type A.
Yeah.
On to the next. Yeah. Want to compete at a pro level, go back and make some improvements, and hit it again.
So when can we expect to see Nancy on a pro set, making that pro debut? I know I put you on the spot right there. You're like, I gotta ask my coach.
I know. I don't want to say something out of turn. Hopefully in the next year.
Okay.
Yeah. Go back, do some work, and come back better. And
Okay. That's the right answer. That was the politically correct answer. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Just thanks to everybody who supported me. Thanks to Shelby Starnes, my coach, and Jody Lyons, and Reality Training Company, and my son Cody. So thank you to everybody who supported me.
Well, congratulations. Good luck in the future. We'll be seeing you on a pro stage sometime next year, I'm sure. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Congrats. It's Neil Cash, Nancy the Champ, NBC News. We out.
Congratulations. You should be proud of yourself. I know it's really tough to do this sport. And you said you did nationals the year before.
Yeah.
Came in second in both in each of the classes you competed in.
Yeah, that was tough.
I mean, it could be discouraging, because most people, I've known some ladies who, after a while, who competed and just, they said, what's the point of it anymore? I mean, the money I'm spending, the cost of training, traveling to the shows, And then just to get a pro card, just I know ladies who actually get the pro cards and then they were done.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like it's just I don't know, something, that goes on. It's a phenomenon. Like when I first started, in bodybuilding, it was just if I could get that trophy, I'd be happy. Like even, any place, if I could place, I'd be happy. And then you get that, and it's like, I want first place in a show. And then you get that, and you're still not happy. So, you keep going. And then yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm still I'm still not satisfied. So I'll just keep going. And I don't know. For me, it's just having the goal. Um, you can't get too upset because it's a subjective sport. And number one, you don't know who else is going to be there in your class, and you don't know what the judges, what their kind of priorities are in terms of what they're looking for. So, maybe you don't meet that criteria. So you just have to realize that going in, and you just have to keep trying for the next one. And
Yeah.
I don't know,
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
just the commitment you make, it's not any different.
Yeah, I think the judging is the big part of it, especially for your competitors, because they usually this is how I was told the judges go by what they see on stage. If you have those aesthetics, good definition, good lines, but then again, it changes from year to year because especially in your division, physique, it has really evolved in the last few years. Like when it came in, and I wasn't a big fan of it. I call it watered down women's bodybuilding. You know, it it was just like women's bodybuilding, but they try to make it more feminine and a certain look. But then now, if you look at it now, you look at some ladies like who compete on the stage now, it's totally different. Compared to
Yeah.
Danielle Bailey, who was the first physique Olympia champion, to Sarah Vilkas. Like as a competitor, and long you like I said, you admire people like you know you know as mentioned earlier, Rachel
Rachel.
Blesh. Yeah, Rachel McLesh. Who do you, as a competitor, we respect and you see and and pay attention to in the sport now?
So I mean, I watch a lot of the pro shows, and I see you know competitors that are from all over the country. And it's it's interesting because, like you mentioned, Robin Mays. I mean, there's somebody that like she just keeps going, and she's achieved so many goals. And um, someone like that is local is inspiring, because it just seems like it's close, and like somebody that would share the same struggles. And so I would say that she's somebody that just through watching shows and kind of following her, she would be definitely someone. And then also Jody, as you mentioned, she's also a role model to me. She's done a lot of shows. She's helped me immensely, like with my posing routines. And that girl is graceful. So um, I would say those are two that really stand out to me. um,
Yeah, I think yeah, I had a pleasure to interview both those ladies, Jody and Miss Robin. Both ladies have great physique, especially Miss Robin being this woman's almost 60, and her is just phenomenal. How I know she's going to be doing the Masters Olympia coming up in August. I think she might do another show just to see if she get Olympic qualification because she's very competitive. Jody, just amazing physique, great look to her, great personality about her. As I said earlier, congratulations on her nuptials. She's now a married woman. She's married now. She's married now. So, and I know she hadn't competed in a while, but she still in some good shape.
yeah, I mean, it's funny because I just chose like my first pro show just based upon the fact that I'd heard a lot of great feedback about Tim Gardner shows. And the timing and the fact that it was in Tampa didn't hurt anything. So I chose that show, and I had seen a few before I went down there, like I saw the new pro live streamed, and everybody just tells you like this is like super serious. Like there's there's not one slouch that goes into the pro shows, and so it was, a little, scary, and I, really didn't know what to expect. And I watched those live streams, and yeah, all of these women, I mean, they looked phenomenal. And so, going into your first pro show is, it's just another kind of getting past your comfort zone, just, going in there and just doing your best. And, you really don't know what the results are going to be because it's the finest of lines, of what, makes people different. Because now you're comparing, you know, 10 people that are, awesome. There's not, the kind of delineations of, three really stand out. And so it's much more, you know, kind of difficult. But I think, getting that under my belt, I think, it makes me kind of, now I know what it's like, and I can, go on to the next show, and, you know, maybe at some point try an Olympic qualifier, because I'm not ready to stop yet. So I'll just keep going.
Well, like that, like Rocky Balboa, you keep going, keep pushing forward. The winning is done. Even though Rocky's in Philly, y'all in Boston, it's just all. But yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of time, and you won in your class, which was 55 over. I'm looking right now. I wouldn't think you're 55. I would think you were like in your good mid to early 40s. I mean, some of these ladies I've interviewed and they tell me their age, I'd be like, what? You sure? You sure about that? I mean, you're older than me. I thought you were younger than me. But it's surprising. Bodybuilding, even though it's very extreme, there are some benefits to it, especially to, the dieting and also the working out. But the extreme part can affect you in the long run. I know ladies who have eventually had to go out because of issues, medical issues, stuff like that, and it's tough. And I said again, not everybody can do what y'all do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really just, trying to kind of keep it reasonable. I mean, I think, like you said, anything going to the extremes, trying to go faster, or what can make me bigger, or, you really have to kind of take a step back and, really think about, um, your health. And, a lot of women are, you know, they're mothers, they're working full time and trying to fit the training in. So it's like it's really, difficult to maintain that kind of schedule. But um, that's it's just kind of all part of it. But we do this, and we're just like we really want it. And so but you do have to, you kind of have to keep that reasonable standard as you're good in prep. I mean, I did, for one of the preps, I think I did 14 weeks of keto, and I thought I was going to die. I mean, that was like really extreme to me. I had never, done keto. And I remember my coach saying, there's only one way you can screw this up, and that's by eating any carbs. So I was even like looking at my vitamins to see if they had any carbs in them. I didn't want to eat anything that might have a gram of a carb. And, you just, it's like you get headaches, and, you have to get through like the whole adjustment of it. And I just remember, I had to drive to work, and I was just feeling like, and then when you get in the gym, your brain says you can do something, but your body says you can't do it because you just don't have the, ability or capacity to do it. So, you know, um, it is tough. And a lot of times you take it out on your family because you're not in a great mood, and, you know, you're just short with people. And so it's not for the faint-hearted. That's for sure.
Yeah, because one thing is like I heard this like carbs have glucose in it. And glucose does help the brain. When you don't have that glucose in your system, it does kind of mess with your brain, get your brain fogs, and you can be driving someday and just And you mentioned again being a mother, and you are a mother. You have a son named Cody, and you competing as a bodybuilder, raising a child. What's that like him growing up with his mom? Being more pumped than some guys' dads.
So I mean, it was fun. I did these shows where you had to apply the tanner and everything, and he would go and be in the audience, and he'd say, "I remember that stuff. It used to stink so bad," and it just, I was like, I hope she doesn't, do that again, and but over time, I mean, he really learned to like respect the, what I was doing to achieve certain things, and I, he's like one of my biggest, fans, and I remember even taking him to the gym the first time and showing him, the ropes. And then, after about, I don't know, 6 months, he's like, I'm all set, Mom. You can go do your own thing. But, he really got into it and started working at a gym. And he, really appreciated it. So he's, really supportive. But at first, as a kid, he was like, "This is disgusting. What are you doing?"
I know the thing is like any kid, I don't know if any kid, especially, we boys, we love our mothers. A boy best friend is mother. I don't know if we can take seeing our moms nearly butt naked on stage. You have to put on the tan stuff on it, then you're cooking. You have to cook for him separate from you because no kid's gonna eat, rice and chicken every day. He likes to have a little mac and cheese, a chicken nugget, maybe some corn, something
Yeah.
like that. You have to, and that's the tough part. You have to balance both your diet and also make sure he's fed, and that's a good thing that, he supports you. And he, like I said, again, we love our mothers. My mother was, I took care of her for like the last 4 or 5 years before she passed away. And that was my woman. That was, I didn't have kids or anything. I just had me. So it was my responsibility to step up. And this is what got me doing this content about your ladies because I needed something to help with my mindset. Because, it's a lot. I mean, you're taking care of somebody who's, going through what my mom was going through. And I know your son appreciates you, and he stands by his mama. When the last time he come to your shows? When you get your pro card or when you did your pro debut?
No, he didn't make it out there to Tampa, but he has gone to, the regional shows, all the regional shows in New England. And it's kind of funny because, he did write me a letter, about, just respect that you never say never, that you, dig in, you go after your goals, you're not, it's like nothing is too big, that, you just, that I was an inspiration to him. And that was really touching because, it went from like, how you doing to fine and talk to the hand to, you know, this is, this is kind of what I feel about like the evolution. And so it was really, really touching to get a letter like
That's so sweet. I mean,
that.
you make me want to cry. Say, but I'm just taking me a moment, folks. That's just lovely and that's good. And that's again, that is great support. Because like I said, often I hear is tough. Being just a competitive sport. I see like this. This is why I do my channel and give y'all these opportunities because really everybody pays attention to the guys. It's so easy because they're big and buff. I say like this. I often say like this. Even though the pimping game, the guys are the bottom bitch. They're the one who gets the attention. They get the big money. Yeah, yeah. But y'all ladies, y'all put just as much as work. Even though you're different levels compared to men, you can never really compare yourself to the man. But I think y'all should deserve just as much as opportunities. But I think when you look at some divisions, they look at the ones that are very more popular, like wellness, the bikini, or I call them the TNA divisions. You got the new division coming up now, fit model, excuse me. Ha! I mean, I'm not a fan of it, you know, but you ladies in women's bodybuilding, physique, figure, even fitness, y'all really put in a lot of work and time. Not saying that physique and wellness don't, but y'all have to bring a certain level of muscle as compared to them. You are often have young ladies who tell me that they get ridiculed for having muscle. Guys making comments saying that, oh wow, you're too buff, you're trying to be a man, yeah. I have ladies who told me that sometimes their family members or especially their mother say, sweetheart, I don't want you to get too big,
Yeah.
and the dad might say, well, I have a son, I don't need another boy. But you do this sport for passion.
Yeah. I mean, there aren't many sports that you can see like real results from what you're doing, right? So, uh, like visually seeing things occurring. And so if you're putting in the work and you're seeing, changes in your body, like what, there's not a lot of other, comparisons. You can get faster, you can, maybe have more, power in doing something, but this is a sport in which, like the human body is, beautiful and aesthetically you can see changes occurring. It's funny because I, have clients that are, middle-aged and really all ages, but that's the first question is like, well, I don't really want to get big, and it's like, there it takes so much time and you know commitment, and it's a process to to actually gain a lot of muscle. I mean, sure, you can get toned and leaner, but like you said, people are afraid that if they pick up a weight, they're gonna it's like boom, I'm gonna have this humongous bicep. But that's it's like so far from the truth. And yeah, I mean, I think people are learning that, we lose muscle starting in our 30s. So it's like, it's something people should be doing for themselves is to start strength training, um,
Yeah.
because it's just, you're fighting muscle loss and weakness. So, I mean, there's so much more behind it, like you said. I mean, just kind of looking at an aesthetic and saying, oh, but don't you think it's becoming like more popular and more in vogue to have, muscle as women? I mean, it seems like I have people like at a restaurant come up and say, how do I get that? You know? So, I mean, I think it's becoming, I don't know, a lot more desirable. And that's what I find is that people are very curious.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, back in the day, you didn't see as many, but it's starting to grow because it's very a lot of a growing fitness influence. But also, as people were like the other flip side, people shaming for that. But yeah, because there's a lot of influencers that do a lot of fitness and training stuff like that. Some don't compete as bodybuilders; they like to build muscle. Like I said, this lady here, can you believe it? This is a lovely body. If you see this woman here, I mean, God, And I had to hate to admit my crime, Nancy. I'm a muscle person. Y'all ladies excite me, But doing this content, I get to learn, what it takes, especially for a woman to be here. Like I often say this: the guys, all they gotta do is when they compete, wear a pair of banana hammocks and board shorts. But y'all ladies, there's a lot more for y'all because you have to present not just the muscle, but also the femininity. I look at presentation. If you depending on what division is, from wearing your makeup, your hair, your jewelry, high heels, your tanning has to be nice. Then you have to wear these suits that cost you a lot. And
Mm,
I think it's so much more for y'all compared to the men.
yeah, that's true. I mean, there's a lot of, expense associated with it. And I think, we kind of get caught up and like we have to have, the best suits, and, you need more and more like crystals. And it's amazing, how much these suits can cost. And, in reality, it should be about, the body. So, certainly the bling, catches a lot of attention and it's beautiful. But I think, we really have to also be conscious that it's the physiques under the crystals. And but it definitely between the travel and the food and all of the costs, it can be an expensive sport, that's for sure. But you know like for someone like me, I don't go on a lot of vacations or cruises, or that's kind of where I choose to spend my money, um, just because it's what I like to do. So,
Yeah. Well, my other guy, like to say, I like what's under those jewelry and the bikinis too. But yeah, there's a lot to it. Here we got a comment from my man KL the Wonder coming through. He says, "Do you work on flexibility at times? Like, is that an important part of your training, flexibility?"
yeah, it definitely is important. So, I mean, both flexibility and mobility are very key because especially if you do a lot of weight training, It's something that I think we oftentimes, neglect, but you really have to kind of have that, um, holistic approach to fitness and training. So uh, the flexibility is very important, and it's something that I do work with, the clients that I have, and the mobility is very important. And, I'm finding I have a lot of, clients that come in that are in, perimenopause, menopause, and um, they're just really like feeling like their doctors are just dismissing any of the symptoms that they are feeling, and you really have to train differently if you are feeling certain symptoms, and really, you know, realize that different people have different needs, and um, really, work with people just in relation to that, to what they're feeling. So, and similarly, if people are tight, they have, hip mobility, uh, ankle mobility issues when they're trying to squat. You really have to identify those, and work with people to improve that, because you don't want someone to get injured.
hmm I understand. I got two bad knees like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Other parts of me because I'm getting older, worked most of my life. I need to see a specialist because I was seeing a specialist for a good while, getting shots, but those things are expensive when you're paying out of pocket. And yeah, it is a lot. And I see that you are in your gym. How long you been a coach and a trainer, and when you start your gym?
So in 2014, I actually opened up a CrossFit. I owned a CrossFit for 5 years, and it was super intense. And it was, you know, really expected as the owner that I could, do everything. I would have to be the best. And, after doing that for 5 years, I just, really felt like I'd be more um, a fit with like training people individually or small groups, because I think it's all about education and making sure that people understand how to lift safely, what they should be feeling, mind muscle connection, isolation, all of these principles that you are not learning if you go into a big box gym. You go through maybe one orientation, and then hey, you're on your own, and you're not really sure if you're doing the right thing, or people are waiting for this machine, I guess I'll stop what I'm doing. So a lot of times people just stop going. So I really, I just wanted a place where people could feel comfortable and have a connection and support, and that would make them want to keep coming back. So that's really why I can decided to start this, and I just have a passion for the education. um, so I was working in the corporate world for a long time. I did the CrossFit, went back to the corporate world, and then I just decided that, hey, what do I really want to do with my life? I want to do something that I feel, has meaning. So I love it, just to be able to kind of have people have those aha moments, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, you work in the corporate world. So what do we do in the corporate world?
I was an HR director.
Oh, so
Yeah. So that's
well,
why it worked out.
yeah, see, I didn't work in corporate. I worked more like in factories like that. We had HR, but you're like you can be saying like you can't say anything to Becky, like say, hey Becky, you got a nice George, you got HR. I say, oh shit. I say, who I talk to? Oh, it's Nancy. Nancy? Okay, I don't have a problem talking to Nancy. Yeah, because I think that is a kind of stressful because you got to deal with people and personalities, and you need something really to take the stress and working out is a thing. We got here from my man Lawrence Burke coming through. Shout out to Lawrence, appreciate you, brother. Says good afternoon, Miss George. Miss Nancy and George. Everyone on the chat, appreciate that, brother. Also, Ryan Lake says this says. Nancy, you look good in shape. I appreciate that, but she really does. And also, this is from Ryan. He says, "When did you started lifting weights in the gym?" So, like, what's your what when you start actually when you lifting weights in the gym, and what's your workouts like during the week in your training?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been, weight training for over 20 years, basically. And I usually, I don't know, I kind of take some experience that I've had with, CrossFit in terms of variety. So, one day I'll do something, heavy, and then, the next day I'll do something high volume, incorporate maybe some, like kettlebell swings or something, really get the heart rate up, do a lot of reps. So I'm just all about like that variety. So I'm not like back and biceps, chest and triceps, um, kind of, I target all of those things, but I also add in some other things like ancillary tools, box jumps, different things to really kind of like jumpstart and, have that variety. I really like that um, concept and really like the isolation, holds, volume. I mean, it really brings you past a certain point because we're pretty used to like traditional training. Uh, so I think that has really kind of opened up like a lot of, you know, for me to understand, and I think it's pretty effective.
Yeah, it's a process, especially training, working out, and building your body. You have to work on things that help in the process. Like your last show, because you did the Tampa, you won your class. What did you get any feedback from the judges and what they tell you that you needed? Because you were just doing 50 plus, but you didn't do open, so you just 50 plus. That was it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
did you get any feedback from the judges? What they tell you or what you need to work on?
Well, I don't know. I mean, honestly, since I've been like in the master's classes, I've always said, oh, maybe I should just do the opens, but I just keep hearing that, I have mature muscle, so it's not the same that, you have like more, I don't know, like I don't know
Density.
how to describe it, but more definition or sinew or something in your muscles than, someone that has like full, like, different kind of fuller muscle bodies. But there's like a difference in the way, people kind of, look at the age categories. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that are in Masters and Opens and they do really well. But, I think just from, I guess what I've heard, that I really would stick to Masters. Um, so I, just, have been kind of doing that category. And I didn't, really consider doing the Opens, but I think I don't know. I feel like people in your class are more similar to you versus, going into an open category where, you have 20 somethings, 30 somethings competing, against you. It's kind of hard to get, a higher, I guess, a higher placement in those classes, from my opinion, from what I've seen. And I'm not saying that it can't happen because I've seen people do it, but I think it might be harder as a general rule of thumb. So,
Well, I know quite a few ladies like who are probably around your age group that done pretty well. Sometimes genetics is a factor. You know, I know the body difference when it's ages. I know one lady I'm really cool with. Her name is Melanie Horton, and Melanie is around about your age. Her body's amazing. I think she's gonna be competing this year doing women's bodybuilding. She's been competing just as long as you have, and she started like about in the early '90s. She competed in the her debut was '99 at the Olympia with Iris Kyle. That was the year that Kim Zveski won. And she looks amazing. If you've never seen her, I'll send you a link and check her out. But I think anybody who wants the opportunity to compete, if you feel comfortable, yeah, that's cool. But I would say try it once and just see how you do. Sometimes you never know. You might beat out somebody. Even you might beat one of these young cats. These young, these young tenderonis, and show them out. Say, hey, I'm coming here to play. I'm not playing to play. But
yeah,
that's why many ladies I've interviewed have been ladies of your age,
yeah.
and really I respect y'all because it takes a lot to do what
Uh-huh.
y'all do. Because
Well,
I remember one lady told me because the fact is it's not easy for y'all to do it compared to most young competitors because when you get to a certain point in your life, things are not as expensive. Some way still cost a bit, But then, you don't have responsibilities of kids anymore. Your boy's grown. You really put your money where your mouth is, and you understand what it takes to invest in yourself as an athlete. And as you mentioned, your work with Shelby Starnes, and I interviewed quite a few ladies. I just interviewed one of your stablemates, Marilyn Yee, this last weekend. And I think he's probably one of the top guys when it comes to women. So when y'all get together,
Yeah, so I had him actually at the time that year, 2022, when I placed for second in three categories. I was just, kind of looking for change, and I reached out to him, and I think actually it was after I had done the Masters Nationals in 2023, and I felt like I didn't come in that good, and um, I just wasn't. I felt like I was holding water, and so I just, at that point, I reached out to him. I had been thinking about it in the past, and so he actually, between Masters Nationals and North Americans, which is like what, I know, 5 weeks or something like that.
yeah, about a month
Uh,
apart.
so he did that time with me as far as prep, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I made so many changes just in that short amount of time, and was able to get my pro card. So I was like, stoked that he worked with me and made these adjustments, and could do that in 5 weeks. I think he called it emergency prep. So but yeah, it was great. And I think
So,
you had mentioned or asked the question about like judges feedback, and I think you know like the rear delts are they're so hard. Like that's one of the biggest things that I've tried to improve. But those little suckers are just, they're really hard to target, and genetically, like you said, certain things might grow for some people, but I have just like struggled to no end with those little guys. So
yeah, the fact
um
he can't seem as good, you got like what the,
yeah, yeah.
because like
You never turn around, just walk forward.
yeah, because I know one thing. Somebody told me that the worst. I think somebody says the back is the one that takes them because it's really it can make or break how you do with shows. The tie-ins, the glutes, the quads, everything can look good, but you have to make sure that everything's just right, especially when the judges look at you, because they're the
Yeah.
ones who tell you how you're going to do. The feedback
Hmm.
is kind of important, but some competitors say, no, they don't take it because they know what the problem is. But it's good to have that other eye to see something that you don't see.
Yeah.
And like when you're training, what's that training? What was that exercise to say, I love it. It's my favorite one of the day. And the other one says, damn, I got to do that shit.
Well, it's funny because like when I was doing NPC shows, like regionally, I oftentimes see, you probably know Jose Raymond, and he would recognize me and he'd say, "Oh, there's the lady with the quads," and I'm like, I don't want to be the lady with the quads. I want to be like, overall package. I want to be, like the woman with the great physique. So I love training legs. What can I say? I mean, I've had to really adjust how I train them, and just, rip them up and really high volume. But just, genetically, I mean, Eastern European, and we just have strong legs. So that's something, I guess, you always like to train what responds. And so that's something I still look forward to. And um, I would say just like chest, and I don't know, I don't think that is as exciting to me to have to come in and do like chest and you know triceps, something like that. um, it's just like those leg days are so killer because you're like, I feel this, and this is amazing.
I know often leg day, anybody who tell me they like leg day, I tell them you're a mutant, you're a freak. Who likes leg day? Leg day is like, I keep saying it's my favorite episode of Chappelle's show, where Eddie Murphy talks about the time he met Rick James, and then they later go back to his brother
So
Eddie's house. And and Rick does the F your couch, Eddie Murphy, F your couch, and he beating his legs. And it's like, what are the legs? Darkest, you dark. That's for a bodybuilder. That's like that. You get your legs beat by Charlie Eddie Murphy. But especially say Eastern European. I know a lady I interviewed a while back. She's Bulgarian, and she turned pro that year, and she said that's her favorite thing. She loves doing the Bulgarian split squats. You know what that is. That is. She was doing with another competitor who was a Puerto Rican wellness competitor. It was her, the Bulgarian, and the Puerto Rican doing split squats. But yeah, I think everybody got to work on their strengths, but also work on their weaknesses, because those are things that when you come to a show, you want to make improvements. You really want to, bring a certain level so you can be the best. Like I said, your last show, you came second a couple of divisions. You worked with Shelby. He got you your pro card, and and I know it was that feeling. Ladies who have told me that it's that feeling when you get that pro card when they announce your name and all that time, that work you put in it. What was that for you when they say you're now IFBB Pro?
Yeah, I mean, it was, phenomenal because, you really don't know. I mean, during the prejudging and, you're kind of moved around like in the center, but then you're one away or you're one on either side. And, so you really not to get your hopes up. So, I mean, I just, I never am a person that says, oh, I've got it, or, people say I've got it, or anything like that. It's just at the end of the day, you don't know what, the results are going to be. So, when you're on the side and they're saying fifth place, fourth place, and then it's getting, whittled down, your group on your side, third place, and then it's you and the other person, and you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, you know wait, bring it in, because it's you or her. And you don't know. So when they call the other person, second place, and it's just like, like you said, it's just all of that work and all of that effort, and the commitment, and I mean, I've done this for many years, and so I didn't take it lightly. I mean, it was very meaningful that I was finally the one. It was yeah, incredible. And then it's just kind of like surreal, like you know you don't is this really happening? And like with that interview, and it was kind of like looking back, it was like, wow, I don't, it's like I don't really remember a lot of pieces of that. And that guy's really big, by the way. I felt like a little shrimp. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's just, like all that time, work, energy, and it's, statistically, like, how small is that? The people that, go on. Like I said to my son, he was a big soccer player, wanted to do the D1. And, realistically, how many of those players go on to become a pro? It's very small. So, I mean, that's, you know, what really kind of resonated with me was that, like, to achieve that, it's like, unbelievable. Like, if you know what it's all about. Um, so, yeah. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you know, um, just keep going for it.
yeah, because I know a guy I've got. He's a friend of mine. He's IB Pro. He played in the NFL for several years, and yeah, it's hard. My brother, he played football here in our hometown. He went to a college, but then he just got homesick, country boy. He wanted to come back here. Now everybody can make it, and that is experience for just that opportunity when they say, "Hey, you're not IB Pro." And it's just, it used to be it was like harder to become a pro now, but it seems like there are a lot more qualifiers. And now you got masters put into that. You have the Masters Olympia coming up in a few months. It's really has expanded. I interviewed some couple ladies who just got their pro cards at the Masters USA's, because I think there is a growing population of women of mature ages getting into bodybuilding. I mean, ladies that either get into later life because life's changed, you want to get in shape, and they just start bodybuilding. Others who competed for a long time, and finally now there. I saw a couple ladies who made a return after having competed for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And and it's good that that's the support for y'all, these opportunities for not just the men, also women. Men too are getting to it. Here we got a man, Ryan Lake, He says, "Nice, Nancy. I like your tattoo." That's
Oh.
nice. I'm not a big tattoo guy 'cause I don't have none of them, but when did you get it?
So I actually was, right at the point that I had started this CrossFit gym, and I had been dealing with shoulder issues, and so I finally had to, bite the bullet. I had a rotator cuff tear, labrum tear, and I had to have my bicep reattached. So it was a really tough recovery. And so after that, I'm like, I'm getting a tattoo because, this is kind of like a warrior, and this was the shoulder I had surgery on. So it was just kind of like I wanted a warrior. And then further down, I have Wonder Woman. So I'm gonna just get a bunch of bad bitches, to complete the whole sleeve. But I just, it was like such a tough recovery, and so it was just kind of like, I need something to kind of show, or to make myself feel like it was just like you did this. You know what I mean? Like you got through it.
Well, I tell you, I got issues with my shoulders. I don't know if I'll get a tattoo or I might get a shirt say I survived surgery. But, yeah, that is whatever that makes you happy, makes you feel good. Respect that. So this is a question to ask you ladies, and it's a little personal, especially, as diet's very important for y'all. Tell me, share with me, Nancy, what was that thing that you desired the most? The thing that often my other guy would say, I guess, what make you stranger, make you stronger? What does that, what thing was calling your name, especially being on that prep? And you finally, especially after your last show, Tampa, made your pro debut. What did you and your honey go do afterwards?
Well, I mean, it's really like I've made the mistake of like going to the grocery store and like buying all the stuff that you haven't had since you were 5 years old, like Pop Tarts and Oreos and all this crap, and then like just like gorging afterwards, and then you're like, oh, the worst heartburn and indigestion, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again. But I do have to admit, one of my biggest craves was Cheez-Its. I don't know why, but it was just like I wanted Jesus. And other than that, just like something um, really kind of like I don't know, decadent.
Sweet.
Yeah, like cheesecake. I love that. Cheesecake Factory. It's called Adams. It's like got peanut butter, chocolate, toffee. It was just like, and as you're kind of getting ready to go on stage, it's amazing what you see people doing because they all got their own routine. And some people are eating, like a lot of sweets. Some people are eating like rice and chicken. Some people are eating rice cakes. So I'm like, I mean, if they can have that, if they can eat that, the brownies, why can't you eat the brownies. And it's like, you really have to kind of like, go with what your coach says. Every person's individual, but you're kind of like, wow, they already get to eat that. It's like it makes it even harder because you have to wait, So I would say
Yeah.
I don't know why, but the cheese it's really more
Well,
or a big crave.
I hope on this that some people eat sugar because they want their to be more vascular. It makes their veins pop more. We get that sugar rush in your
Yeah,
system. I heard that. Everybody have their favorites. I've had ladies told me the typical ones is like French fries and a burger, a pizza, some cake, ice cream. One lady said she ate so much ice cream she one day didn't know she puked. One that I think is kind of unusual is sushi. Now, this is one thing I'll say. I grew up a poor country boy, but I've never been so poor where I had to eat cold, raw fish. So I understand that's some people's taste, but that's not me. So, and
yeah. No, and it's funny because like people, not so much like when you're at a pro show, but like if you're at a show, in general, that people will do the prejudging. And like I've always had the coaches that say you go, you're still on plan, you have, your meal, a little bit of rice, chicken, whatever the case may be. You might get, a sweet, but you have people that during the prejudging and finals, they just go out and they're like, I don't care, you know, And it's just like, you know, I mean, I've always heard that it can make a difference, like the night show. They could have you placed at 4 or 3, and it could make a difference, that if you come back and you're bloated and you've lost, you know, that you might not like place where you were going to place. So it's funny how, kind of sometimes people just like, I can't take it, and I'm just going to go out and eat. And it's like, you're that close. Just wait.
Well, I think something, especially when you are been under prep and you desire something, sometimes your desire outweighs your common sense. You
Yeah.
was just, especially if you go to, like, if there's a Krispy Kreme down the road and you just did prejudge and say, you know what, I'm gonna get myself two half a dozens and I'll be good. But if I think the people who
Yeah.
have the mentality and the patience and the determination and the discipline say, you know what, I need that afterwards. I can wait. Let
Yeah.
me see how I do. Because you know what, if that person made a mistake, then you know what, then that might change my position. So
Mhm.
you competed last year. What's the plan for this year?
So I had it in my mind I was going to do Chicago, but I don't know that, that's a possibility. I really, since I just opened up this training facility not too long ago, I've just really been busy, with getting this up and running and training people. And I think in my brain know that I need to just keep forging forward and making improvements. And so I think, right now I'm thinking 2026. And don't quote me because that could change. But at this point, it's just, you know how it is. I mean, like being on your feet and training people all day, and then you're like, when am I going to get, my actual workout in? Um, but I think, it's just probably a time for me to grow and you know, continue to make improvements but I'm definitely, I'm definitely focused like a laser beam. I'm not done. That's for damn sure. So
Yeah, that's damn sure. Yeah, she said, you goddamn right. But yeah, you take that time. If it's 2026, 2027, 2028, bodybuilding not going anytime soon. And you take time to grow. You got your business and help your business. Because one thing is, bodybuilding is expensive, especially instead of getting
yeah,
for the women. The traveling to the shows, you do masters, which you have to pay to compete, and the cost of everything. I would say take your time, build your business, stack your chips. It's going to be here when you're ready. Because one thing I think some ladies can use is sponsorship. That helps out. Have you been a sponsored athlete before?
no, I have not.
Yeah, I would say that's just
Hey, if
something
you
that
can
really
help me,
helps.
George, if you can help me, bring them on.
Well, like I said, these guys, if you watch this live stream and you're interested in sponsoring an athlete, reach out with genuine interest. Don't be weird. Don't be like some guys say, "Hey there, Nancy, you're a cute little firecracker. I seen your video, your interview you did. So if I had something with you, no, stop it, you sick freak. This is what you do." He said, Mrs. Cullery, I mean, we saw your interview recently, and you have a nice personality about yourself. You're very upright about yourself. You're sure about yourself, and you're committed to the sport of bodybuilding. We have a company, and we like to invest into athletes and help them along their way. We have a product. If it works with your satisfaction, then we'd like you to become one of our ambassadors. But we want you to be certain that we want to see you grow. Nothing more else. Maybe help you advance your career. You help us with our product, and just let us know what you feel about it. Just come back with us with something you feel like you feel comfortable with. So, it's up to you, madam. So, will you be interested in being part of our program?
The paid infomercial there.
I have learned. I've been doing it for a while.
Or
But
unpaid.
yeah, but yeah, I think it does help out. And I think anybody who understands the cause of what it is for a woman in sport, I mean, if you just all you want to do is just help athlete on their way to make those chances, to make those advances, that's good. But instead, again, you have a business, stack your chips, make your money. Like I said, sports gonna be it's gonna be here when you're ready. I mean, there's ladies how I've seen that took 2 or 3 years off. Like I know a guy interviewed who had competed for 10 years. I
Yeah.
think if anything, what's important for you is to, really make the improvements that you need and also, make the advancements along the way.
Well, I think that, just, being a certain age and, still, bodybuilding and, having, the ability to, continue to do that and, having, um, the bodybuilding kind of transforming. And I think, as you get older, it really does, set a role model for people because, you're even statistically more rare when you're getting into your 40s, 50s to be able to do this and to have, um, kind of a physique that reflects the work you're putting in. And so it's almost like you become almost like a unicorn because, it's like you're how old and you look like that or still train like that. And so I think it's even more kind of extraordinary. Like when I, see people, that are in their 40s and 50s and 60s and on up that are doing it. And it's becoming like, you know, more rare. So I think that people realize that, and it becomes harder as we get older, to add muscle, to continue to train because we have other things going on internally and our joints, and we're aging. So I think it's pretty impressive when you see somebody that's getting older that can still do that. And I feel like it's, for me, it's been almost kind of like a little bit of a fountain of youth, so to speak, to be able to continue to do it.
hmm One thing I think, it doesn't stop for all the time. It kind of halts a little bit. It slows it
Yeah.
down. That's a good
Hmm.
thing. I turned 50 last year, and one point before I was like 500 pounds because I was taking care of my mom. I put on weight, and food is it's a comfort for, especially when you're
Yeah.
dealing with stress. But I make
Hmm.
the choice when after she passed. I said, I got to take care of myself. I haven't been consistent as some of y'all ladies are, but I do try to do smart things. I try to eat smart foods. Even though this afternoon I had barbecued, chicken strips, but it's it again. It's somebody tell me it's about balance. You should enjoy, and enjoy what you
Yeah.
eat. Find the right
Yeah.
things in your process.
Hmm. Yeah. You can't just have like this austere, you have to live life. So, eating clean the majority of the time and then treating yourself, but it's also actually good because you know, you're incorporating some, junk, and that's going to make your metabolism rev up and all of those things. So you can't be so, strict and, just like trying to starve yourself and putting yourself in an emergency state, and then you really hold on to the calories and your metabolism starts to shut down. But you just yeah, you have to live life and still enjoy it. I mean, if you feel like you're just eating blades of grass and water every day, it's
Yeah, it's not enough because you know what? Water's nice, but it can be boring. You might have to flavor up a little bit more sugar and Kool-Aid, but yeah, it's a lot to this. And like I said again, I respect y'all ladies and what y'all do. And I admire y'all, to do what y'all do. And to, I know when, I talk to ladies and they tell me how when they're on that stage, and what us who in the audience who see y'all on stage, we understand what it took you to get there, being tired, being dehydrated, the training, the dieting, all that's involved in it. We see these beautiful, amazing physiques, these men and women who are bodies just another level. And I know, your son every now and then says, "That's my mom." I said, "That's your mom?" Yeah. But no, 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 no. Hey, don't say my mom, man. You like fighting, but you know what? It's good that you found something for yourself. Not everybody is going to be the Sarah Vegas or the top level competitors. One lady who I'm a fan of, and I think she's an amazing lady. She really changed, especially for a guy who's been fighting bodybuilding as long as I have. She's changed the sport, and that's Andrea Shaw. I I'm just a fan of hers. I just, she's my girlfriend, you know that. But I really, like I said, doing this content, interview ladies, talking with your ladies, earning friendships and garnering these friendships, I get to learn something. I keep learning something every single day when I get to talk to you ladies, and that's why I reach out to. So I love how Andrea one of these days. I love to, but when I talk to ladies like yourself, who's been what you've been at, been what you've been through, and to be able to still have a passion for a sport where there's some things are going on, like saw that they cut some shows from here and there. They did cut women's bodybuilding from Tampa, but shout out to Jake Wood. Yo Jake, I want that money. I want that gun. He saved it, like he usually has. And opportunities are getting so far few between. But as long as you love what you're doing, you love this sport, you understand what's involved with it, the dieting, the training, the recovery, the rest, all that's involved with it. You should love you. And anybody else has a problem with it, like my man Bernie Mac says, if people don't like you, fuck them.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've had, people, I try to, when I post content, I try to be positive and, hope you're having a great day. Hope your training is going well. And, you just, it's funny because you have people that, send you messages and say, like, you're really narcissistic. And it's like, um, no, I mean, I'm trying to kind of motivate other people. I'm trying to, if she can do it, I can do it. It's never, but it's interesting, like you said, it's just you're going to always have people that, you know, turn something into a negative, but
Mhm.
that's okay.
Yeah, that's haters. Let them hate to hate no more. That's what they need to do. So, folks, we appreciate the time that Nancy gave us here. I know she's a busy lady. She took time out to talk to me. I know she has clients probably waiting for her. I don't want to hold her up too much longer, but I will ask you this question: what would you want for bodybuilding for yourself as a whole? I really
Um,
hit you in hard one there.
so, I mean, I guess just to, have it continue to, you know, become mainstream or more mainstream. I think that the trend is that people are looking at, women with muscle as a positive thing and, that it is a form of, beauty, but also just the freaking appreciation of, that commitment and the hard work that went into that is pretty much like common in everything you do in your life. So what you do in the gym oftentimes, kind of spills over into your daily life. That if you're that committed there, you're that committed in other areas. So I just, I hope for the sport to keep growing and popularity and uh, women. I would like them to continue to, push forward and it's never, never too late. And I just, feel like it's it's one of the rare examples we have of like self care and just that, we can go into a place and, feel comfortable and be who we really are. And so I don't know. I think it's, for me, it's been a great experience, and it's been a lot of empowerment, and so I just I hope that more people do kind of get into the sport and keep growing with it.
Well, I agree with you too. I wish Bobby was more mainstream. It used to be back in the day, you can catch it on television, you can catch it on network television,
Yeah,
cable, but because
yeah,
of the thing about bodybuilding, because everybody's always pointing to situations about steroids, but there's more steroids in mainstream sports. Wasn't that long ago we had that whole commercial area of baseball when
yeah,
guys like Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa got busted, Marion Jones, Olympic level competitors. But it's so easy to pick on bodybuilding because bodybuilding is just about flexing, and then people don't understand it. I mean, we talk about this how one thing you wouldn't know who Andre Shaw unless you follow the sport, or somebody like Chris Sebum. You might have heard of him because he's very popular. He's very social media. And one thing, social media is important. I think, for any athlete, because it's a new thing. It's new to reach out to people, and people reach out to you. And because I reached out to you and you responded and said, "Yeah, that's cool." We set this interview. You know, but like I said again, it's a double-edged sword, and it can be used as a weapon against the people, and be used as a weapon for people. I think people should be really more open to understanding something, not be as closed-minded. You miss out on something. You miss out on meeting some great people. I mean, when I went to my first bodybuilding show, and I met someone like Lena Popa, who's a beautiful woman, amazing woman. Quite a few other ladies. I mean, I saw Andrea; she was doing a guest posing there. It was just an experience for me, and I think if people are more open and willing, I mean, and also you athletes have to advertise yourself too, because we don't know who you are. That thing is, it works both ways. The people need to know and really need to take an opportunity to say, you know what, let me check out a show. Let me go out here and see what I'm looking at, and know something, and reach out. You never know. You might inspire somebody to say, you know what, this lady can do it. I can do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, folks, we'd like to thank Nancy for her time. Wish her best of luck. Congratulations on her new business. I mean, maybe someday also when you're another graduation day, she's married. I'm married now. So, you jumping up and down. So your son could be he could be like, you go take his mom to the altar. Mom, I'm going to take you to the altar. That's so beautiful. Look good. He say, who gave this woman to this man? I do. It's my mom. That'd be so beautiful. And I know he's
It's a
proud
good
of you
idea.
because, yeah, yeah. Like I said again, boy's best friend is mother. Mine's was my best friend. I miss it. I love it dearly. You only get one. Women come and go every other day. No, wives, girlfriends. But you lose your mom. That's no one. You can never replace her. Other than that. But madam, I'm not gonna hold you much too longer. You have anybody you want to shout out to before we let you go?
Sure. Just want to shout out to my son Cody, fiance Dean, um, all of the clients here at Pure Results. Everybody's been great and super positive and supportive, and so it's a great community. And so yeah, just want to shout out to to my close family and all the support that I've had.
Well, that's good. Shout out to your man and your boy. Those two stand by you. Shout out to the rest of your family, your friends, your clients. I hope you have a lot of success with your new business. Also, shout out to Jody. A great lady. I hope she's doing well because maybe you become a bridesmaid at her. She become a bridesmaid at your wedding. But man, I would say like this. I wish you all the best of luck. You
Thank you.
ladies, you deserve it. Y'all deserve it. Y'all put a lot of up for what y'all do, and having love for the sport. I wish there was more opportunities like you deserve. Like prize money should be a little better, where hey, you won't have to. If one thing also, I think your athletes should get some more benefits out of it. That helps you in the long run. With the cost. I think if I was anybody, NPC IFBB should make sure the athletes are taken care of. Like if you go to a show, you don't have to pay so much on a
Yeah.
motel. Cover your expenses here and there. We come to these shows, we come see y'all. We don't come see the judges or the promoters or whoever's there. We come see y'all competitors. And anything, like any sport, you should put as much into your athletes as they put as much into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Well, yeah. Well, folks, I appreciate y'all coming through. Shout out to my man KL the Wanderer, Ryan Lake, Laura for coming through. My brother Lawrence Perkins for coming through. Anybody who watched this video, you watch again, you missed some parts of it. You can follow Nancy in the links in the live stream. Reach out, interest. If you're someone who's also, if you're in the area, you're looking for a trainer, look her up. What's the name of your business?
It's called Pure Results.
Pure Results. Check it out. If you're someone in that area and you want to work with somebody, you have a lovely lady here, and she's very professional. So, and guys, you gotta be professional too. I just want to work with Miss Nancy all day long. So, you might get some guys in HR say, "Oh, Nancy, you working here? Oh yeah, I make HR. Yeah." You say, "Oh, let's come and talk to you, HR man, Miss Nancy." That's a lot. Yeah, yeah. But But folks, we like to wish her best of luck. Like I said again, she's taking some time. She's trying to grow a business. If you want to reach out, maybe even sponsor her expenses. These ladies can use sponsorship. You can use anything. If it's something that genuinely helps them in their path as a bodybuilder, reach out and genuine interest. Don't be that weird guy. I know you guys. I'm muscle perfect like small like you. I understand your feelings, but you know what? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "Fuck your feelings." So anyway, folks, We'd like to thank the lovely Miss Nancy Culliney for coming through. Appreciate her time and wish her best of luck in the upcoming future.
Thank you so much.
As the quote from my man, The Dark Knight, you never have to. This is the way I do this. So, man, good luck and thank you. Yeah. And wish me out with George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Like, don't like, subscribe. I'm out. Good afternoon, good night, and good luck.